Hello. Hello, Guy.
Hello.
Internet. Welcome to our DM Deep Dive today with Guy of How to Be a Great GM. And we're very excited that we've just announced our first D&D in a Castle of 2025, which is in the spring at Lumley Castle, UK, March 24th to 28th and March 30th to April 3rd. 2 rounds back-to-back at Lumley Castle. And Guy is here because he is going to be running a epic 24-plus hour campaign over the course of the second of those rounds, March 30th to April 3rd. So, Guy, hello and welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, super excited to have you. Really intrigued by your description of your campaign, which sounds like so much fun. If you haven't seen this description yet, you can go to our website, dndinacastle.com/spring2025. And there you can see some teasers about the games that will be on offer at D&D in a Castle that round, including Guy's. But I'm going to let you tell the people about this super fun castle-based campaign that you're going to be running this time around.
Yeah, you know, I've always wanted to do it, and so I was like, well, you know what? It's time to do it. It's time to dive in, and hopefully, it's going to be so much fun. That's the part that I really enjoy. I've got a little bit of a spoiler. Some beautiful terrain that we're going to be using, and the characters. They're either going to have an amazing time and just have this awesome experience and this epic experience of taking this castle and being lords and all that kind of stuff, or they're going to end up killing each other, or possibly never even getting into the castle. It really depends on the player characters, I have to say. But either way, I think I don't want to give away too much, but I think it's going to be awesome, especially for the format of D&D in a castle, right? Because you're already in a castle, which is a bonus. Really helps with the immersion.
So the premise of this campaign, for those who haven't read the description, is that you are an inheritor of a castle. You've just inherited a castle from your rich uncle who has died and left you his castle. But the castle is not all that it seems. The castle maybe it is all that it seems, but you don't know. We're not spoiling. But there are some castles come with a lot of fun. They're not, you don't just move in and suddenly live like a lord and lady. You got to, first of all, feed the dragon. And secondly, there may be some ghosts in the closet. I don't know. But there's certainly some things about owning a castle that might be interesting. So tell us more.
Look, I mean, the goblin estate agent would list this as a little bit of a fixer-upper after a little bit of a killer. It is what it is. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Is there going to be like a mystery element to this, or straight up adventure? I mean, I know you can't without spoilers.
Without spoilers. So let's just say that the deception has already begun, and yes, it can only get better or worse thereafter, provided that the players manage to see beyond the greed. I think is a good way of saying that. But as with most of my games, there is a lot of it will depend on the backstories that the players create for their characters, because I love to incorporate the backstories. So like I've had some games where I've got lots of players who really have got lots of investigation and perception and insight and all those kind of wonderful and investigatory things, in which case then there's a little bit of a slant towards that, as opposed to players who are doing other cool and wonderful things. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to go on. I mean, it's
players can discover what they discover.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you've been to the castle a number of times, and speaking, as with all your games. So tell me kind of what are some of the common threads between your games based on, what you are aiming for as a DM, what are you trying to bring to the table? What do you think is a great game of D&D, and how do you make that? Also, Jen says, yay, Guy.
Hello, Jen. what I love about the castle is that you go, oh, it's 3 days of gaming. Do we have enough time to do it? Can we game more? Can we game? The answer is yes. We have, as a common thread, my games, generally we run them in the morning and in the afternoon. And so in the evening, I always say to my players, well, the evening is for you to go to the bar or to do one shots or to catch up with your fellow players. What usually happens is that my players spend the evening recovering or plotting and planning for the next day, if they get much of an evening anyway. So I think because they are self-contained, the stories wrap up, they conclude. You're getting this adventure, which is more than, it's a mini campaign. And it is wonderful to experience the whole thing in that short space of time. But for the players also to have these moments to sit together, to plot and to plan, and to come into my world spaces particularly, which are expansive and vast, even this one, which seems quite focused, there's a lot to explore. There's a lot to do. So I don't think anybody is ever going, oh, I don't know what we should do, or, oh, I should. It's go, 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 go. Stop the world from exploding, defeat the big bad, get the treasure, get home, relax, retire. Never going to happen. You're going to be going. And every single time I've been at the castle, the players at the table are going, okay, we need to stop because our brains are jello at the moment. We cannot, there's so much this, but we will be back tomorrow. I know you said we're starting at 9 a.m., but could we start at 8 a.m.? Because we don't need to eat food. We can just go in and start playing. So that's been really, 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 really cool. Yeah.
I will say, no one goes hungry at the castle. There is so much food. Yes. There is so much food, and yet the food is secondary. You're like, I don't care about the food. We're here to play some D&D. I can eat anytime. I can go to a restaurant anytime. I'm not anytime in a castle with Guy of How to Be a Great GM, a great GM himself, with like the possibility of playing this game. People say to me sometimes, like, oh, 8 hours a day. But some people want to play less. Do people burn? I'm like, all anybody says is, can we have more D&D? As you say, we're starting at 9. Gamers like 9 a.m. Like, what is 9 a.m.? I've never seen that. Is it a mystery? It's like, no, 8 a.m. Let's go for 8. Like, can we get in more? They're so anxious to get back to the table.
And the springtime, the March period. I've been to the castle over the course of a year in different times. I have to say, I really love the springtime. There's a crispness to the air still. You still get to wear cloaks and feel medieval, but also, sure, it's England. You might arrive and have 4 days of rain, which is cold and wet and miserable. But at the same time, you might also have 4 days of beautiful spring sunshine where you've got just the green fields and the forests all coming to life. So I really love the spring slot personally.
Yeah, it is a beautiful time. It is a beautiful time. The daffodils that are all coming out, and I'm from Canada. And so, our daffodils don't come out for another month. So it's like coming to a beautiful early spring, like, oh, everything is so green and all the flowers.
Exactly.
And it's just lovely, except then you lock yourself in a dungeon for 4 days and then out you come at the end. So Guy of How to Be a Great GM, if you could sum up, you've been giving GMing advice or DMing advice about running games and the aspects of running games for GMs all over the world for some time. If you could sort of pick your one of your top pieces of advice, or like what do you feel makes a great game? Like, what makes a DM? What can a DM do? What do you do to make those games great as a GM, as a DM?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I've been doing a lot of thinking about what exactly it is and what is the answer to that question. And as far as I'm concerned, it can be summed up as one word: engage. Engage. And that comes from both sides. So the more the GM engages with the player characters, and the more that the players and their characters engage with the GM's world space, the better the game. when it's just the DM presenting a map or a dungeon or an adventure, and they're not engaging with the players, they're not engaging with the player characters, they've got their stuff set up and they're just sitting back and that's it, boy, you are running through it, and whether you live or die is irrelevant. I feel like there's a disconnect there. And equally so when the players arrive and go, oh, I've got my perfect build character, I'm not going to talk to NPCs. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to roll dice and I'm just going to walk through and we're going to solve and win D&D. I think that's when you're going, okay, you're missing a major component, and that is the engagement. So as long as the PCs are engaging with the NPCs and the NPCs aren't shutting down the PCs, they are full of life and they exist in the world space. It makes everything feel real and truthful, and it makes the whole thing just feel like it becomes a memory of a real thing that happened, even though it's all fantasy. Anyway, so that's what I would say. Engagement.
Absolutely. We have somebody dropped in to say, what is this? Multiple question marks. So I'm Tara. I'm the co-founder of D&D in a Castle. I'm here with Guy Sclanders of How to Be a Great GM. Guy is one of our dungeon masters at D&D in a Castle. D&D in a Castle is a 4-day epic, all-inclusive gaming vacation where you get to play one campaign adventure over 4 days with a legendary dungeon master like Guy. Guy is one of ours. We have 2 events coming up in the spring of 2025, and Guy will be running a game at the second one of those. Those are March 24th to 28th and March 30th to April 3rd at Lumley Castle in the north of England, which is a genuine medieval fortress that Guy, actually, let's talk about that. And if you want to learn more about what we're talking about here, please go to dndinacastle.com. Lots of information there. And you can find out more about Guy on there too by clicking on the Dungeon Masters link at the top. And that will show you all of the Dungeon Masters that we work with, have worked with, will be working with, etc. But Guy, you are a history nerd like me.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, absolutely.
You and I can hang out and talk about Richard II all day long.
All day long. Yeah.
All day long. Anna Bohemia, here we come. So tell us a little bit about the history tour that you do. We call it the Guided Tour.
That's
because
right.
we love a pun, because we're not beyond that. We're not above a good pun. And it's so much fun. I finally got to fit it into my schedule at the last event that we were at together this last spring. Spring?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was that spring. And so much fun. So many things that I didn't know. And Guy has done his digging around and finding out cool stuff about the castle. So share us a little bit about what that tour is, what inspired you to do that. And then tell us a little bit about a couple of the tidbits that you can find out about if you join Guy on his tour.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, firstly, you've got over 2,000 years worth of history when you are standing on the castle grounds. And you can literally look out over 2,000 years worth of history, and you can go to different places around the castle and around the little village and actually touch that 2,000 years worth of history. I mean, it's mind-blowing. There are things that you look at that castle and you go, this castle wasn't very important. Well, it was super important to a whole bunch of people. And one of the reasons why it was incredibly important to the Western world is because it's where the last successful land invasion of the UK occurred. And if you know which that was, then you'll know that it was fairly significant, but it was also quite a long time ago. And it was from a nation that you really wouldn't expect to invade England. And they did it really, really quietly and easily. But it started at Lumley Castle, which is magnificent. Just in that little tidbit there. And then there's medical stuff, and there's ghosts, and there's, worms, as in with the why worms type of things that are floating around, and bishops after coal, and there's just an amazing amount of history. I absolutely love it.
Does any of that history end up in your games, Guy? Does any of that stuff end up?
I'm not saying that this next game was deeply inspired by the things that went on at the castle, but the biggest inspiration that I get whenever I'm at Lumley Castle, because I love to arrive a day before and I just go wander, because you find something new, like, I don't know, the Lindisfarne Gospels, just to name drop something. When I run my games, I try to make sure that I am almost channeling that deep history. So when my players encounter something that's not just, oh yes, it's an elvish ruin, boring. It's an elvish ruin. So that means it's thousands of years old. What has happened in the last 1,000 years just at this castle? Mind blown in terms of the number of invasions, the number of deaths, beheadings, hangings, just craziness. So yeah, it comes into my game, whether I like it or not, because it's just awesome and amazing and, you know, inspiring.
We have a comment here saying, I watch many of Guy's videos on how to be a great GM, which many people have. Your channel, How to Be a Great GM, very popular and helping a lot of gamers around the world improve their games, which is amazing. And D&D in a Castle is an opportunity to get to play in one of Guy's games and experience his DMing firsthand. And that is really exciting for a lot of our players, whether it's Guy or one of our other DMs, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because these are people you may have seen, may know about, or even if you don't know them personally, have maybe enjoyed their work. A lot of our DMs are writers and creators and have contributed to a lot of very popular content of Dungeons and Dragons as well. But also a lot of our players are dungeon masters, like lifetime DMs, you know, they're the ones who always have to run the game. And one of the wonderful things about coming to D&D in a Castle is if you're a lifetime DM, you can relax and just play. And even if sometimes you get to relax and just play in your regular life, in this case, you can really trust the DM. And I think that is what's so one of the many factors that's so exciting for players who come, who, you know, normally they're like, I could do a better job of running this. You know, it's hard when you're good at something to let someone else do it for you. So in this case, you can really trust that our DMs have got your back. They've got it. They're holding this space. They're making this game for you. They're going to take care of it. Don't worry. They've got it under control. You know, and you can learn from them as well as you go, like, oh, I loved how we did that. And a lot of people say that. A lot of people talk about that. Also, a good point to bring up is if you haven't seen it yet, there is an actual play. If you want to see a bunch of our DMs together, playing together, which is not something that happens at the castle. And it's not something that we do. We are not a live stream. We are a vacation experience live in person, and it is not streamed. It is a private thing for just you as a player to do on your vacation and vacation of your dreams. It's not an entertainment for the rest of the world. But we wanted to show off how much fun our DMs are, because nobody ever gets to see it. It all happens in a closed door in a little room with just 6 players and a DM. So we wanted to sort of blow the doors off and show that. And so we did an actual play that you were part of, Guy. And this on the screen is the QR code to find that actual play if you want to check it out. Tell us a little bit about what that was like, Guy.
Well, firstly, you say you get stuck away in a little room. I mean, my favorite room is a ballroom that fits a whole bunch of people. So some of and the ceilings, anyway, no. So you hit it on the head. There are very few GMs that I enjoy sitting around a table as a player. I like GMing. And as a player, I often kind of sit there going, the GM is fine, but, you know, but I have managed to get in a few one-shots with other GMs at the castle. And what Jaden did with us was just, I mean, it's so much fun. But I've played with other GMs that have been at the castle too. And I'm like, that's why these guys are here. They're just awesome. They are so awesome. And there's a camaraderie that has existed, I think, for a long time between the GMs. You know, we're all friends on Facebook. Like, oh, you're coming to the castle? Yeah, let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do the next thing. And when you get to play with these guys, it really is. It's such a treat because it's effortless, and you're not sitting there going, "Oh, what should I do?" Or what? You're just in the space. Everybody makes it feel as real as it can get. And that's just magic. I mean, you are sitting there going, okay, so they're brilliant, they're brilliant, they're brilliant. How can I even remotely up my game to get to their level? Yeah, it's an absolute joy. I do hope that we do more of those because they are so much fun. And yeah, it is nice occasionally to be able to play.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an experiment. We'd never done it before.
Yeah.
So I think the game was amazing. We definitely hit some technical snags, I'm trying to say, that, we had to postpone the broadcast of it. But when it did come out, and the game
Yeah.
itself was
Yeah.
so much fun, and just that level of talent that was on the screen. And I want to say one thing too that you mentioned about the DMs and the camaraderie. You come to D&D in a castle, and you play with your game and your group. And the reason I said you're in your own little room is because you're not in a ballroom with 20 other tables. You're in a private space that's like acoustically secure. It's just you and your team, your band of heroes and your dungeon master in your own gaming space with your own table. And it's very private and intimate and personal, and you're just in that space. And as you say, you're kind of doing that, but there is this camaraderie in the background. And so when you come to D&D the Castle, yes, you're getting your DM and you're getting everything that they bring to the table, and it's their chance to shine. It's their chance to do their thing. They're not constrained, and they've got the time to really get into it and do it their way. And we try to encourage that. And also in the background, they're talking to each other, and I've witnessed it so many times, and it's absolutely just really lovely because everybody's just so excited that they'll get to do D&D in a castle. Like, this is amazing. And that they're there with this community of like such quality and like such commitment and such passion for the game, and such a vast array of experience and interest. They draw on each other's, they sit in the background like, I've got this thing, and how do I do that? Well, you could do this time leap, or I've done this thing where I've have you tried this mechanic? I've tried with this. And they're all supporting each other. So you get the benefit of your own DM, but you also get the experience and the support in the background of all these other DMs who are just super excited to share their passion. And I find that with the players too, they're all super excited to share their passion. And that's kind of the underlying theme. And it's just so exciting to, like, you're walking down the hall and all you hear is conversations about backstories and characters and familiars and spells. And it's all D&D all the time, even outside of the game, just thematically. And I wanted to ask you about the players, Guy, and what are the players like, and what players have you had? And you've had some very special experiences with your players. So you can share some of those as well.
Yeah.
Who comes to D&D Castle?
So I have had the joy of sitting with a whole bunch of different folks. Every single one of them has been there, has brought their A game. So it's, they go, oh, thank you for a wonderful game. I'm like, no, thank you for a wonderful game. And the friendships that I've built, literally, the one group, we now get together once a year. The original group, as it were, at the moment, we get together to celebrate weddings. Because last year we did the one group, the one couple, they got married. This year I'm getting married. They're all flying out for my wedding. Next year, the other two couples were like, well, we've already been married for 20 years. We're like, renewal of vows. We're going to go do a vow renewal next year. So that's the one side. The other side, I run games here in London, and I've got players who are going, we're coming to play, and they come through to play, and we just have, the friendships are strong and solid because you're getting people who are not doing this generally as, oh, it's just something that's amusing. These are people who really love the game and who really like to invest in the game and deep dive into the game. And in my last game, my players, there was one little thing that the GMs cooked up at a breakfast once, which if you come to D&D in a castle, you will experience it almost without fail, especially if certain DMs are at the castle at the same time. And my players bought into this idea so much and did so much marketing outside of the game that we managed to get a whole other table and DM to stop their game and come and raid our game because they had enough of the shenanigans that were going on. I mean, it was all done in character. The GMs, we had nothing to do with it. Literally, we were just sitting there going, do you know what my players did? And they're like, you have no idea what my players are planning. I'm like, bring it on. Let's see what happens. The next minute in walks this group of players with a bag of gold, by the way. They were buying they were buying real estate space on a certain merchant ship. It was awesome. It was awesome. We even had rival coffee brands at one stage going. Coffee and tea is important at the castle. It flows freely, but my goodness, yeah. If you start messing with the coffee, I'm just saying there are a lot of dark tentacled things that will get very angry.
I love this stuff. You know, these are my favorite kind of stories of D&D
Yeah.
because, you know, we set the stage. We as planners,
Yeah.
as organizers, we bring the people, and we know there's a certain magic combo, and it's sort of like a cauldron, and you put it in. You actually don't know what's going to come up, but it's going to be something magical and transformative and amazing. And so when these things sort of happen organically, and I remember that the sponsorship of the vessel by the Kobold Coffee Company, which sort of keeps coming up. It's magical, and I love it. And these sort of interactions that happen between tables, sometimes they are orchestrated by the DMs. We've certainly had that where multiple tables have had, you know, epic encounters and things like that with multiple gaming tables. But when they happen organically, it's so much fun, and it really demonstrates how much of a community and a family is created at D&D in a castle, and that it's a safe space for people to go hard. Like, it's the nerdiest place you're gonna be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't go too nerdy. You can't go too hard at D&D because we will meet you there, you know? Like,
yes. You want to arrive wearing full chainmail and have your breakfast oats. No one is going to care. Unless you have a token for exchange, or you have a power or a scroll or something that might be for trade. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a magical space. It really is.
So much fun. Something I do want to ask you before we get to the end of our time is, now you currently are the host of How to Be a Great GM on YouTube, and clearly a very experienced and interesting runner of games and passionate nerd. Tell us how you came to D&D, how you discovered Dungeons and Dragons. Sort of, what's your origin story as a dungeon master?
It's one of those red box origin stories from 1,000 million years ago. Oh yes, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons way back when. Yeah, and that's what it really was. That friends were rolling up characters, and I said, "Hey, what's that for?" And that led down the dark path. And I still remember my very first character, who was a wizard. For those of you that remember second edition, he was a evoker specialist wizard with the militant mage kit. So there's a very old combination of crazy wizard build. He was not successful at all, but it was the very first character. And yeah, once that had happened, that was it. I was stuck. There was just no going back, really. So yeah, long time ago, 30 years plus ago. Yeah.
And have you always been a dungeon master, or did that come later?
Yeah, basically we managed to alienate the dungeon master who was running our very first game, because we took over a sewer, defeated the kobolds inside the sewer, and then realized we could turn it into our own base, and then we wouldn't have to pay for accommodation and stuff. And so we started going shopping for different doors, looking for like non-rotting wood. The GM felt that this was not in keeping with their railroaded adventures that they had meticulously planned out. And yeah, that was it.
You're running a cheese shop, as my brother would say. I founded this company with my brother, and that's his phrasing. Now we're running a cheese shop.
Right. And that's the joy. Yeah. So,
which is wonderful.
Yeah. So they pulled out, and I was like, well, I'll do it. It gives me something to do. And
the rest is history, as they say.
The rest is history. Yeah. I did go, my very first convention that I ever attended, I attended as a player. And my favorite thing was at the end of the session, the GM who was running that session came to me and said, "You're not a very good D&D player. You shouldn't really play this at all." And as I was leaving, my one player, who's still a friend to this day and still plays D&D with me 30 years later, when we were leaving, he went, "I think you're a very good player, and I don't think you should stop playing." I was like, "Thanks, bud." And I listened to him rather than the idiot inside. Thank goodness.
D&D is for everybody, man.
Yeah,
There's not
exactly.
being good at D&D. It's not a skill-based exercise.
No,
It's a game that we do for fun.
correct. If you're having
And
fun, you're doing it right.
that is
Yeah,
certainly our philosophy. This is a game we do for fun. It's for everyone. It's not I'm not good enough to do this game. This is, Cam likes
exactly.
to say it's a game built for 12-year-olds. That's fun for all ages, We can
Yes.
all play it. And that's the joy of D&D in a Castle. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the fact that we are here for joy. We're here for fun.
Mhm.
It's a space that we don't give ourselves very often. And a space for pure fun and enjoyment and friendship and havoc and just letting go of reality. And you don't have to hold on to reality because everything's taken care of. It's a safe, beautiful space, and you're looked after when you come to the castle. And we're all here to have a great time. And that joy and the laughter and just the pure enjoyment is so therapeutic and so wonderful and so beautiful. So we build a castle around it so nobody can take it from us for at least 4 days at a time.
Yes.
So if this sounds like fun to you, or if you want to learn more about Guy and about his game and about our D&D in a Castle events coming up this spring or at any other time, you can find us at dndinacastle.com. As I have mentioned a couple of times, Guy is in particular running a game at Lumley Castle in the north of England from March 30th to April the 3rd. And we would love to see you there in Guy's game or in anyone's. And if you have any questions, there's a live chat on the website, dndinacastle.com, and that is actually manned by real human beings and not bots. So we will actually talk to you. You can even schedule a call if you're interested and want to learn more, and we can tell you all about it. And wonderful to have you, Guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Why don't you take us out with an invitation to whoever you think is going to love your game to invite them to come and play with you at the castle. I'm going to give you the last word.
If you are so inclined that you wish to exercise your right of ownership to the fantastic fortress of death, you should accept the invitation to join, for there is glory, treasure, and quite a lot of DIY that will be required for you to take possession of said castle. There's some minor bits and bobs that need to be fixed, but it's all wonderful. It's definitely a good investment, and that approaching army of darkness is nothing to worry about. They come around once every 1,000 years, standard sort of thing. Anyway, come and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you all at the castle, friends.